Hey guys, it's Spence. Today I want to give you a tip that has to do with the difference between flat rate billing and hourly billing. Now, what's the main difference? Well, first of all, many of you are confused or debating whether it's better for you to charge clients by the hour or charge by a flat rate. There's benefits to both, but today let me give you a quick strategy on how you can merge the two for the best outcome. Now, first of all, when you're doing flat rate billing, you have the advantage of thinking that there's a full project and the client can see what the total cost will be. But some of the risks that many of you have identified is that when you do a flat rate and then the client wants change orders, there's oftentimes a bit of friction. Also some unrealistic expectations like, well, while you're at it, can't we just do this and then the other? And many of you freelancers who are generous people at heart fall victim to the fact that it's easy to say yes to a client. Next is when you're doing hourly billing, while it may appear that it's more advantageous because you can check off hour by hour, the problem comes that you end up not knowing, what should I really bill for? Is having a donut or a cup of coffee billable? Do I charge for the time I'm in the bathroom? What's a phone call worth? I mean, realistically, you end up discounting some of your services because you feel guilty. Either way, if you want to do the right thing, here's 3 tips strategy to make it happen. First of all, number 1, there's a place for both a flat rate as well as an hourly billing strategy, but you have to merge them together. Put yourself in the mindset of your client, and instead of discounting the value of your services based on one or the other, think about focusing on the client's financial result. Here's an example. I had a client this week which was doing a tremendous amount of business, but they were not efficient, and they were worried that because they weren't on WordPress as a CMS, that the web designer working for them was going to take them to the cleaners one day, maybe run off of the site or close things down. The way we solved the problem was to frame the conversation about asking this client to tell me how much they made for every new client and customer they signed up with their website. Turned out to be pretty nice, about $600. Now I asked them how many clients more did they think that they could sign up per month if many of the features they needed were automated, again, using WordPress. Turned out pretty nice, about a 10-fold increase or 10 a month. Actually, not a 10-fold, a 10 increase. So they could sign up 10 more a month. When we did the math, it came out to about $70,000 a year extra income for this client. Instead of asking him for X number of dollars per hour or how much the job would cost, I said, well, if you make $70,000 more, maybe this particular job would cost you half that, say $35,000. It sounds a lot better to the customer to think in terms of, I'm going to make X number of dollars more and the cost will just be a fraction of that amount, than to be thinking about, oh my goodness, I have to be paying out hour by hour to get this done with a never-ending potential. Or to be thinking like, I contracted for this, but I'm fixed into the idea of what do I do if there's changes? Now, next idea is the differences in the benefits of hourly versus flat rate can be taken advantage of in a way that suits both your needs and the client. So, step 2, make a fixed rate bid on anything that the clients want, but always have a certain hourly rate to act as your fallback. This is how we do it at Lab Secrets. What we do is allow the customers to come in and chat and talk it up, but once the time comes to make an actual contract bid, we go ahead and make the flat rate, put a contract in, and the contract provides that effectively there's a fallback if the customer wants change orders that allow for some discussion, but they must pay our consulting fee for that. And we've also changed the fix of that to be not an hourly consulting, but a quarter hour. So here's how the conversation goes. Client goes ahead, says, I'd like to talk about this project. We agree on it during a conversation, send them a contract for the full price. Let's say the job's $5,000. As the job progresses, the client says, well, while I'm at it, I want to do this. No problem. Let's go ahead and set up a quarter hour of consultation. Now, why do we do a quarter hour instead of an hour? Simple. Human nature responds best to the actual number you're giving them, not to thinking through the number. For example, if I say to a client that the rate is $75 for a quarter hour, does that sound better than saying it's $300 for an hour? Of course it does. Even if the client ends up using an hour and paying the $300, they just hear 75. You see? Now, how does that relate to the fixed contract? Well, we always want to use the Japanese business negotiation tactic of yes. That means you always say yes, but with a condition attached. Here's how it sounds. Client, I know we have a fixed contract, but I wanted to make some changes. Can't we just throw them in? Yes. Let's have a quick consultation using our consulting fee of $75 for a quarter hour. Once we have the conversation, we can discuss what the client needs, knowing that we're being paid for the time. At the end of it, I then will send the client a change order request or an additional new contract. The client can then make a decision about what the new costs are, but I'm not expending any of our valuable time or effort on chasing the client around trying to make them happy. Instead, the client and I meet in the middle, knowing that we're both being compensated and also getting what we want. Now, at the end, is there an advantage to having a fixed rate contract? Of course there is. The client knows that the beginning part of the contract is covered, but that there's a line in the sand between any new things they want to do. If you're responsive to the client by saying yes, they oftentimes will feel that, you know what, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this. And many times the costs that you give to them in the second part, the change order part, don't ever get implemented. But just the fact that you were receptive to it and you provided them a channel works really well. Now, lastly, what's the other advantage to using this system in the big picture? Well, if you base it on WordPress, you can oftentimes do a fixed rate contract knowing well in advance what the time involved is going to be. But for those items that are intangible, meaning they're variable for one client to another, you can leave that open to having this hourly charge, even if you do bundle it in the end to having, let's say, an additional one-time payment. So for example, client comes to you, I love what you're doing on the original site, but while we're at it, can we do this? Yes, let's have the conference, agree on a new price, send it to you for approval. If the client goes ahead with it, I can estimate the changes in a fixed price knowing that it's a certain number of hours because the client has now a better idea which direction we're going and is specifically asking for things that they know are going to be overcharges. So they're more judicious because they know they have to pay. I'm happy because I'm being paid for the time, but also know if the client accepts the work, great, that's just more work. Now, this has been a real quick example, but I want you to think in this term, or these terms. Take the blinders off as a freelancer and start thinking like a business person first. You can be a good person, you can be generous to your clients, you can have great customer loyalty, but you have to first protect yourself by providing the necessary framework for your clients and you to work together. Most clients respond best to the human psychology factors that work for everybody. They want your attention, they want to know that you're taking them first, but they also respond to auditory and visual clues. Price yourself by the quarter hour instead of the hour so that the number you're quoting sounds less. Make sure that you say yes to everything the client asks for, but put a condition on it. Yes, I will do the change orders, but we have to have a conversation first and I'll send you an updated bill. Those kind of little tips can not only save you a ton of time, they can make you a ton of money and make your customers much happier. This is Spence, your evil genius. We'll see you next time.